Well, here's my bay liner 2859, and my fuel gauge doesn't work anymore. So we're gonna try to remove and replace it. Here's the fuel tank. It's 102 gallons. There's the sending unit. Amazon.com. I believe for this boat I will need 10-inch sending unit. Let's see what we got here. Looks like a package has arrived. This came in the mail today. Let's see what we got here. Pretty good. 2 wires soldered. Gasket and new hardware. Okay. And these got gaskets on them too. And a new gasket. So we'll give this a try. I believe I ordered a 10-inch, so that's 10 inches. So here I might mention that I've had this off before once to measure it, so I knew which size to order, of course. And then this screw here, you notice, is a little larger than the others. It was stripped out, so I had to tap a larger screw in there to keep it from leaking. I'm not the best at wiring, so I'm learning this takes a lot of patience, and you have to take your time. Decided to keep the plugs, the connectors that were there already, and I was just going to splice them into the new sending unit. The old one removed, and it looks like we measured and ordered the right one. And that one's 10 inches. I have previously cleaned the surface and currently applying a gasket sealer that was recommended to me by a mechanic that I had asked. Wasn't sure how much of this to put on, but now I got it temporarily wired up, and I'm going to test the sending unit. So I'm sliding the capacitor up about halfway, checking the fuel gauge now. And at this point I did get a reading on the fuel gauge, which I was pretty excited about. And it slide it all the way to the top, and hopefully it moves the gauge and it should read full. Full as soon as you turn the ignition on. And then when I pulled the old fuel gauge out and disconnected it, it would go to empty. This new fuel gauge I just put in, once I wired it up, before I installed it into the tank, I checked the different levels, and the gauge would match corresponding. So all the way at the bottom it'd be E, halfway, half full or half empty, and then all the way up to the top it would register full. So I might mention here, because I do have that larger screw in there, this sending unit, I had to use a drill bit and make that hole larger to get that screw through there. I was careful not to over tighten it, but make it snug. This gasket sealer was pretty messy. I mean, it stuck to pretty much everything, so I tried to use several paper towels to get it cleaned up. It seemed to do the job. A lot of trial and error with wiring and crimping wires. I find it much easier to put the connector in the crimping tool first. It makes it a little easier. Sometimes if you hold the connector in the wire and then try to put the crimping tool over it, you wind up losing your grip. So this works for me. One thing I forgot to do here is I have shrink wrap that goes around both of these connectors, and even though these connectors are waterproof, they're heat shrink. I still wanted to put a heat shrink over the top of them to kind of clean up the wires, but once you make the connections, you can't put those on. So I opted to use electrical tape. These heat shrink wire connectors work really great. You just want to heat them up enough to where they create a nice seal around the outside wire. I found just a lighter works great. Anything like a torch or anything else is just too hot and it will burn the wire or melt it. After that, it's just a matter of a couple zip ties and re-securing it back to the existing wiring that was there. I only used 2 zip ties. It seemed to work well. I was able to clean it up. Still have the connectors exposed so I could disconnect it if I needed to without cutting wires. That was very satisfying to see that fuel gauge come on like that. Just making sure everything's clear. Probably should turn on the blower. Yeah, get it ventilated in there, even though I was in there a couple minutes ago with an open flame, but better safe than sorry, I guess. Liner 2859 has a 102-gallon fuel tank for the main tank, and it's showing just at half or just above half full. And we are remaining about 47.6 gallons. And not sure how accurate that is because I don't always run this GPS when I am running the engine to warm it up. I probably should to see how accurate that is.